Welcome to the Center for Universal Oneness. We are an open, welcoming, spiritual community that supports all faith traditions and invites you to join us on your spiritual journey. We host different speakers each week to guide and inspire us. We are guided by universal principles of acceptance of all that is sacred, and we strive to live in the oneness of love. Please enjoy this presentation.
Rev Indira Huerta is going to be speaking today on surrendering the wisdom of the Christ consciousness and Buddha nature. So I asked Kyle to put up a little piece of Indira's history here, because she is new to us and has a long history, which is very interesting. She's a New Thought minister, spiritual advisor, educator, Reiki healer, shaman practitioner, truth student, massage therapist, yoga instructor, metaphysical mystic. We had a chance to talk a little bit before the service, and she has for a young woman, she has a long history of education and experience. She's got a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree from Webster University in teaching, and she's an ordained minister. She's passionate about elevating the consciousness of those, especially regarding the treatment of marginalized people.
Thank you for that. That's a favorite. I don't know if anybody saw me laugh hysterically when he introduced me as a young person. I'm 50. I don't much feel like a young person anymore, but I have had a very rich and full life. So today's message is entitled "Surrender to the Wisdom of the Christ Consciousness and the Buddha Nature." I've been a practicing Buddhist for as long as I have been a practicing unity. Since about 1998, I joined the Rime Buddhist Center at the same time that I joined Unity Temple on the Plaza. And so both to me just intermesh into that universal oneness. Colossians chapter 2, verses 2 and 3 says, "I want their hearts to be encouraged and united in love, so that they may have all the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery, that is Christ himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge." And Buddha said, "Teach this triple truth to all: a generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which renew humanity." Paul in the verse from Colossians said, "I want their hearts to be encouraged and united in love." And Buddha said, "A generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion." What a wish for all of us, that we be encouraged and united in love, in our oneness with ourselves, with Christ, with Buddha, and with all of mankind, with compassion and service and generous hearts and kind speech. It is this wish that Paul had for us. It is these teachings that Buddha taught us that too often really seem to escape us. And when I began writing this, I took a lot of time to search my heart to see if I am really encouraged and united in love, to see if I live that life of service and compassion and come to people with a generous heart and kind speech. And as a minister, I sure want to, and I want to be and practice all of those things. And yet, as was indicated earlier in the prayer, on occasion I find myself wavering, not quite hitting the mark, because I look at the tragedies that we are seeing both in our country and overseas, and I do get discouraged. And I don't, though, stay in that discouragement for long, but I would be lying to you if I said I didn't feel discouraged and angry and judgmental, and that I even lack compassion from time to time, because I am human and I do have all the feelings and emotions. However, what keeps me from being discouraged for very long is seeing humanity acting from that place of united love. And these beautiful human beings across the world encourage me and lift my spirits, and they help me back into the circle that says we are united in love. It is these examples of humanity that restore my compassion and rekindle my generous heart and remind me to be kind in my speech. You know, that's the beautiful thing about our humanity, to be honest. When one of us is down, when one of us needs a rest or a recharge, there are many who will say, it's okay, you rest for now, I'll take over for a while. I often remind myself of what Mr. Rogers taught us about tragic events. And many of you have probably heard this, but he told that story about being a young boy and watching events happening on the news. And he would ask his mom why these scary things happened. And she would tell him to focus his attention on the helpers, to look for the helpers. This is really great advice for a child. And it is the kind of advice that I need from time to time as I act witness to tragedy. And when I feel absolutely gutted and empty, I begin filling myself up by looking for the helpers. I will not sugarcoat things in our world, and I will not use spiritual bypassing. So I will not turn away from the tragic things. I will not put my head in the sand and say, this is not happening to me, so why should it bother me? Or worse yet, I will never be the person who says we shouldn't be helping anyone else. We need to focus on the people in our family, in our community, in our country. United in love is what Paul wished for us, united in love. Generous hearts, kind speech is what Buddha taught us. There will always be days when we are discouraged, where we have had enough and we cannot do another thing, where we cannot take another step. We will. It's only natural. And it is when those days happen that we look and we see our fellow man doing another thing, taking that next step for us, holding that high watch while we rest and while we allow our cups to fill again. Because through all of this, it is not me as Indira or you as Bob or Barbara or Jane. It is us united in love as the Christ consciousness, as the Buddha nature. We are human and our cups empty and we need rest. So then it is that Christ consciousness and that Buddha nature that is in Anya or Boris or Mohammed that is activated and steps up to take the lead. And then they encourage us and unite us in love. Have you ever noticed that when you see someone doing the right thing, that you are moved? You become invigorated and inspired. I'm like that. And I remember seeing the story in 1996 of Keisha Thomas. She was 18 years old at the time and living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She had heard that the KKK had showed up in her town, and she and others in the community showed up to protest their appearance. One of the men wearing white supremacy tattoos became separated from their group, and the protesters began to follow him and heckle him. Somehow he ended up falling to the ground, and when he did, many people began to jump on him and beat him up. And Keisha laid across him and protected him from the beating. The media portrayed it as a young Black girl protecting a white supremacist from an angry mob. But how do we as the universal consciousness portray it? Well, we say that Keisha's heart was so encouraged and so united in love that she laid herself upon him and protected him because she did not want him to feel the pain that she knew he would. I remember seeing that story on the news and just being awestruck at Keisha's oneness with the stranger who, for all intents and purposes, hated her. How amazing, how absolutely amazing. And she inspired me and she moved me to do more. And I already hear, people's minds and their hearts, and they're saying, but Indira, I'm already tapped out on doing more. I work, I volunteer, I have a family, I cannot do more. And my response to you is, oh, but you can. Gandhi once said, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. And Paul said, so that they may have all the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery. the riches of assured understanding, and have the knowledge of God's mystery. What is it that we need to understand? Having the knowledge of God's mystery is to understand how the energy that is God works within us. And Buddha said, be vigilant, guard your mind against negative thoughts. We are energy. That is the mystery. We are energetic beings. We are made in the image and likeness of our Creator. We are made from energy. I think we often forget that fact when we are living in our daily lives. We forget that we absorb the energy that we surround ourselves in. What we watch and what we listen to and the words that are used, that we use and that are used around us are all aspects of what we absorb, of what we become. There was a big saying in the 70s, especially, you are what you eat, but we are also what we watch and what we listen to and the words that are used around us. We are what we take in and what we believe and what we absorb. And we know this. This is not new information. And yet I find myself watching things and absorbing words and energy that I'm so subconsciously doing. So I love crime dramas, and Ion Television is literally there for me. Ion Television every single day has a crime drama that speaks to me in some way or another. And it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning and it runs until 2 a.m. the next morning, 7 days a week. And if I need to check out or veg out, I just throw on Ion Television. I am set. I'm set for the whole day. I make excuses about how I just watch it for entertainment, or I keep it on in the background as noise. However, lately I have been noticing that I'm getting way more sensitive to that noise, and I began to pay attention on what was going on. Not only are there storylines filled with bad guys and killings and violence and revenge, but even the commercials are about fighting and killing, albeit they're fighting and killing germs and bacteria and viruses. But how does my subconscious know that? It literally just hears about fighting and killing all day long. So what do I think about all day long? Fighting this, killing that. I said at work the other day, we need to kill that page. We need to kill that web page. Oh my gosh, there's got to be 10,000 other words in the thesaurus than saying killing something. And a few weeks ago, I truly had this aha moment. It was when we had gotten a snow and there was plenty of ice. And so I got up in plenty of time to go to work. I work at Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute, and I got my shower, I put on my makeup, I did my hair, and I got dressed and came out, and I realized that maybe I'd taken a little more time getting myself ready that day and so more time had passed than I realized, and now I was running a little bit behind. And so, okay, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Instead of making myself my own, homemade smoothie, I'll just grab a smoothie at the bookstore on the village. No problem. Plan B kind of gal. I flow with things. So I grabbed my little cup of coffee on my way to take my dog down, and I slipped on a patch of ice and dumped the coffee down the front of me. And my first thought was, well, as you can imagine, oh my God, why am I riding the struggle bus today? Why does everything have to be so hard? Why does everything have to be such a fight? Why? I could just, and then I'm like, whoa, wait, what, Indira, honey, what are you doing? Let's breathe for just a moment. Just breathe and drop that sword and surrender. So you slipped and dumped coffee down the front of you. You've got clean clothes, go change. Being a little late is not this kind of battle-worthy transgression. And what's more is that when this happened, I inadvertently affirmed to my mind, my subconscious, oh yeah, let's see everything that doesn't go our way as a struggle, as a difficulty, as hard. And that sets the mood for my day to be one of difficulties, to be one where I'm riding the struggle bus rather than one filled with support and successes. And what it also did is it affirmed to me that I am supposed to fight against the very life that is there to support me. Hear that again. My words set me up to fight against life. That is the message that I was receiving, that we receive from everywhere, that life is hard, that life is a struggle. Webster's dictionary defines struggle as a forceful or violent effort to get free of restraint or resist attack. Now let's fill in that blank. Life is a forceful or violent effort where we get free of restraint or resist attack. And Paul said, the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery. And Buddha taught, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I could not be further away from the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery, or even get solace in the knowledge and the teachings in the community if I think that the life of God or the universe within me is meant to be a forceful or violent effort that I have to free myself from, or that I have to resist being attacked by. And yet that is the life that I created for myself with what I watch and what I listen to and what I absorb. And it is also the life that has been created by our societal systems, education, media, government, collective consciousness, even by some family systems. And Paul said, that is Christ himself in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Famous Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh, who we just recently lost, taught us, with compassion and understanding, you will be able to heal the wounds in your heart and the wounds in the world. And famous Beatle, John Lennon, once said, if someone thinks that peace and love are just a cliche that must have been left behind in the 60s, that's a problem. Peace and love are eternal. The teachings of Jesus and Buddha, and even of John Lennon, were not just for their time. And it wasn't just for those who were fighting governments and churches and the caste system and poverty or war. They knew that until we embraced, pulled into our energetic fields, the consciousnesses that they had, the divine awareness that life was not supposed to be a struggle, the life was not supposed to be lived with so much suffering, that we would be hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. These treasures that they speak of, these treasures of wisdom, understanding, compassion, and knowledge, come when we set down our weapons of mass destruction, our words of battle that we use against ourselves and each other. When we recognize that what we are feeding ourselves on TV, mainstream media, movies, news, books, whatever, that is when we begin to experience the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. We will stop living our lives struggling to be free from our own self-imposed restraints when we see that we are restrained by the very things that we are feeding our minds and our hearts with. And we think it's so, we're sensitive if we stop watching TV. Oh, I'm not so sensitive that I can't watch that. Recently, a friend told me that she realized something about herself. She said that she did not think that watching scary movies and TVs lowered her vibration. And so for a few weeks, she had been so busy with her church that she could not watch scary shows. And she actually noticed such a difference in her vibration, in her energy level, that she decided not to resume watching them. And I too took a huge break from the TV, and I realized it. I have a very limited amount of time now that I have the TV on, and instead I choose to listen to Valerie Kaur teach about revolutionary love, or Sandra Ingerman teach about shamanic journeying. We hide our own treasures of wisdom and knowledge behind fear and erroneous belief systems. We have been conditioned into fearing that we are missing out on something if we do not keep up with the hottest TV shows or binge watch 8 hours of whatever is on Netflix. And there's another erroneous belief system that we buy into, that we are taught through all of these different media, and that is anger and revenge. Remember, upon the cross, as Jesus was being crucified, he called out to those around him, maybe even to God himself, or God within himself, as a reminder, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. We have so many TV shows and movies and leaders and talk shows that talk about having righteous anger and getting revenge on someone for what they did. I cannot even tell you how many times I have sat and watched, probably over 1,000, I'm sure, people talking about getting revenge and righteous anger. And Jesus shared his treasures of wisdom and knowledge when he taught us to love one another, when he taught us to forgive those that we have perceived has wronged us. Holding anger and revenge is not even remotely in the same ballpark of being in the Christ consciousness or the Buddha nature. When I was 4, my parents divorced. And then the last time I saw my grandmother Grace was when I was 9. My father then gave me up for adoption to my stepfather. And one of the rules of that adoption was that I was no longer allowed to contact my father's side of the family. And it was devastating to my little heart, my little mind, and it haunted me for years. So when I turned 25, I decided to go against my father's wishes. I decided I was an adult and I wanted to reach out to his side of the family. I missed my family. And so I sent my grandmother a card, and it came back 2 weeks later with large, black, bold letters written across it that said deceased. And my gut tightened and I began to weep uncontrollably. My grandmother was gone and I didn't even know. I didn't know for how long. I didn't know what had happened. And so my mother told me to reach out to the tiny post office in the tiny town where my grandmother lived and see if any family still lived around there. I did. And the postmaster knew my grandmother. She knew how she had passed. She knew that she passed when I was 16, 9 years earlier. She also knew that my Aunt Lynn lived in a nearby town. She knew where she worked. This is the great thing about small towns. The postmaster knows everyone. She knew where my Aunt Lynn worked, and she gave me the number. And I called my aunt and was immediately reconnected with my family. And my heart felt very full, until I learned that my grandmother, who was a marathon runner, had been killed by a drunk driver while out on one of her evening runs. And I became livid and filled with anger and thoughts of revenge. And I was even more furious when I learned that he had served less than 6 months in jail for her death. And so 23 years and a whole bunch of healing and Buddhist teachings and unity teachings later, and someone else I loved was taken in an act of violence. While acting in his responsibilities as a police officer, he was shot and killed. And everything inside of me wanted to hate the man who killed him. But that Christ consciousness inside of me, that Buddha nature inside of me, that helper that Mr. Rogers speaks about looking for in the wake of tragedy, inside me kept saying, look for his pain. He did not know what he was doing. Of course, my hate and my anger fought that. And it would say things like, he was an adult. Of course, he knew what he was doing. Or, I don't care about his pain. What about my pain? Why do I always have to take the high road? Because those are the things that I hear people in our society say. He was an adult. Of course, he knew what he was doing. We say that. We say that about everyone who goes to court, who's done anything wrong, has been accused of wrongdoings. They were an adult. They knew what they were doing. Or, what about my pain? Why do I always have to be the one to forgive? We say that and we hear it on a daily basis. And that consciousness within me responds every single time with, look for his pain. Forgive him. He did not know what he was doing. So a couple of years after Dave was killed, while I was working inside maximum security prison, I had an awakening. It was early on a Tuesday morning, about 6:30. And my coworker texted me saying that she was running really late and I needed to go in without her. We had this thing, April and I, that we would walk in together because we were women walking into a maximum security men's prison. And if you've ever been a woman walking into a maximum security men's prison, you know that you can attract a certain attention that you don't really want. And so we used that whole where two or more are gathered message for our entrances, and it made us feel more protected and more powerful. And so now I was on my own and I parked and I made it through security. And then I noticed that something was very off. Now, it was about a mile walk from the parking lot all the way into where I needed to get my keys. And the thing that I noticed that was very off is that there was no one around. Once I made it past the last Sallyport door, there was not a soul. In fact, there were no officers, there were no healthcare workers, there were no secretaries, and there were no inmates, all of which on a normal day, I would have seen hundreds of them. This is a prison that had more than 2,500 inmates, more than 500 staff, and not a soul was buzzing around. No one was in the med line. No one was at yard. No one was at breakfast. It was utterly bizarre. And I walked almost a mile without seeing a soul. And I wondered maybe if an alarm had been called or if they were on lockdown. And I was almost to where I needed to get my keys when suddenly a cell house door opened. And there he was. There was the man who was serving time for killing Dave. And I was face to face with him, and I was all alone on the street of the prison. And immediately my mind that's created to protect me screamed, punch him in the face, hurt him like he hurt you. And then this calm, gentle voice said, no, look into his eyes and look for his pain. And I listened to that calm, gentle voice that day, and I did. And I saw the hurt and the pain and the fear in his eyes. And I saw his jaw set when he locked eyes with me, because he was waiting for yet another prison staff member to be cruel to him, to reinforce that he was getting what he deserved. And my anger softened and my pain dissipated. And I saw him, and I saw that it was his pain and his fear that killed my friend. He was just trying to make someone else hurt like he was hurting. He was just screaming out for someone to care for him, to comfort him, to love him. And so in that split second, the helper, the unification of love, that Christ consciousness, that Buddha nature within me encouraged me to forgive him. And I did. I forgave him, and I thought about those who love him, how they too are without their loved one, how they too want to see him at the holidays and hug him on his birthday, just like we want to with Dave. I surrendered to the realization that everyone in this situation was suffering, and the only things keeping all of us in suffering was anger and pain. It left quite an impression on me that day, that moment when the Christ consciousness and the Buddha nature taught me that I could love someone who had hurt me. And Paul said, I want their hearts to be encouraged and united in love, so that they may have all the riches of assured understanding and have the knowledge of God's mystery, that is Christ himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And Gandhi said, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. And Buddha said, just as treasures are uncovered from earth, so virtue appears from good deeds, and wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind. To walk safely through the maze of human life, one needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue. These hidden treasures, these assured understandings, they are all about unclenching our jaws and softening our fists and dropping our weapons of mass destruction like words of hatred and separation. They are all about absorbing words of love and images and noticing what the words and images of fear and struggle do to our bodies and our minds, and ultimately our actions and the actions of our families and our societies and our governments and the collective consciousness. These hidden treasures and assured understandings are realizing that we are brothers and sisters with everyone, even the guy who killed my grandma, even the guy who took Dave's life, and that we are united in love, no matter if we believe that we are divided in misunderstanding, hatred, and fear. And so as for me, I will keep looking for where I have error thoughts and actions of divisiveness and struggle and fighting and fear. And I will take up my words of oneness and unity and wisdom and knowledge, and I will surrender to that Buddha nature within me. I will surrender to the Christ consciousness as I contribute to peace, peace in my heart, peace in my mind, peace in my soul. And I will be peace, that peace on earth, as I pray and I feed the hungry and I comfort the suffering and I forgive the accused. And when I am tired, I shall rest, and you will take my place. You will look for your error thoughts and take up your words of oneness and unity, and you will feed the hungry and comfort the suffering and forgive the accused. And together we will come to see and reap the treasures of wisdom and knowledge promised to us by the love of universal oneness. And so now let us go into our meditation. Close or lower your eyes, whatever is most comfortable for you. And bring your awareness to your heart center. Take a deep breath and focus on feeling love for yourself. As you exhale, expand that love into your aura, into your energy field. Take a deep breath and focus on appreciating all that you have been through, all that you have done. And as you exhale, expand that appreciation into your aura, into your energy field. For a few breaths, sit with that love and that appreciation. Feel what it feels like to love and appreciate yourself for all that you are and all that you have done. On your next deep breath, focus on kindness for yourself and for all that you are currently experiencing. And as you exhale, expand that kindness into your aura, your energy field, and allow yourself to forgive yourself and to express kindness to you. Take a deep breath and then focus on compassion for yourself. Compassion for all that you think that you are doing that isn't quite meeting the mark. And as you exhale, expand that compassion into your aura, into your energy field. Now take yourself into a recent situation where you encountered someone who was caught up in stress, anxiety, or anger. Perhaps it was a loved one who had a bad day, or maybe it was a friend or acquaintance who posted something controversial or separating on social media. Maybe it was a stranger who was struggling with a political or social issue. And now that you see that they were caught up in stress and anxiety and anger, and that they maybe didn't know what they were doing, expand your love out to that person. Immerse them in your love. See them for the truth that they are divine at their core. Hold them in that love. And as you do, expand your appreciation out to them. Immerse this person in appreciation. Appreciate all that they are going through and see that they are doing the best that they can with what they have in that moment. Affirm with them and for them that when they know better, they will do better. Expand your kindness out to this person. Immerse them in your kindness and affirm with them that you know that they are experiencing pain and stress, and that if they weren't, they would not be acting this way. And then expand your compassion out to this person. Completely immerse them in your compassion. And know that if the roles were reversed in every way, that if you were them, that if you had the same experiences, the same education, the same wiring in your brain, that you would be doing exactly what they were doing, that you would be doing the same thing. And so you express compassion for them because now you understand. Take a couple deep breaths and sit with this person and truly, truly hold them in love and appreciation and kindness and compassion. You're going to begin to expand your energy field to include the room that you're sitting in. Breathe in, and as you exhale, image your auric field, your energy field, immersing your room. Image it as whatever color you want, pink or green, purple or white, doesn't matter. It is your energy, it is your love, it is your kindness and compassion and understanding. Breathe in, and as you exhale, you now image your field, immersing your entire building that you are in, whether it's a home or an office or an apartment. Breathe in, and as you exhale, immerse your town, your village in your energy field of love and compassion and kindness. Breathe in, and as you exhale, you immerse the entire state that you live in with your love and your compassion, your kindness and your understanding and your appreciation. Breathe in, and as you exhale, immerse this country. Hold there and breathe in. And as you exhale for many breaths, hold our country in love and appreciation and kindness and compassion. Hold every sentient being in our country with love and compassion and kindness and appreciation for the role that they fill in your life. On your next inhale and exhale, you're going to expand your energy field to include the entire continent. Breathe in, and as you exhale, you are going to expand your energy field to the entire world and all the people in it. You're going to hold here for several breaths as you immerse the entire world and every sentient being in it, people, animals, trees, the earth itself. Immerse it in your love. Immerse it in your appreciation. Immerse it in your kindness. And immerse it in your compassion. And every day, you affirm that beginning with you and moving outward, every sentient being, person, animal, nature is immersed in your love, your unconditional love for it, your appreciation for the role that it plays in your life, your compassion for all that it goes through, and your deep understanding of your oneness with it. And when you're ready, take a very deep breath in, hold it at the top, exhale it, come back to your heart center and open your eyes.